Let me take you back 1 year. I am a first-year PhD student at Stanford. Like today, the sun is shining, the orange poppy seeds signal spring. But I am inside my dorm room, which gets no direct sunlight, and I am looking through these records of California's flood insurance. And it's really incomprehensible to me. Not because I don't love data, I love data, but I don't know anything about insurance. I mean, I don't own a house, I don't own a car, and until 6 months ago, I was living in Australia where I had universal health care. So as I read through these terms like premium, deductible, claims, it just means nothing to me. But then the universe is listening and sends me a little lifeline. Ping. It's an email advertising a summer position to work on flooding and insurance research for the local county. I think, amazing. This way, I can now carve out a little bite-sized of this national data set, can understand flooding and insurance where I live, and then at the end of the summer, maybe I'll come back and make some really generalizable insights. It's now summer of 2023. I am working at OneShoreline, the San Mateo County's agency for sea level rise and flooding. Now, I still don't know all that much about insurance, so when I see that State Farm is going to host a workshop about how to be insurance prepared in times of disaster, I don't even care that it's at 9 a.m. on a Saturday. Right, like, I am pumped. This is where I'm gonna get to ask all my silly questions to someone in the industry. So it's Saturday. The birds are chirping, I'm biking past a swimming pool and a tennis court, and I arrive to Trinity Church in Menlo Park. There are several shiny Teslas parked outside. There is no bike rack. So I kind of grab the bike, put it on the railings, hook it up, lock it up, head inside. There are several tables, all with this Tiffany blue tablecloth, and some nibbles in the back. And I look around the room at the other attendees. Everyone is white. Everyone is over the age of 65. And I think everyone knows each other because they only ask me to introduce myself. So I say, I am studying climate impacts at Stanford, and then they begin to clap for me. Thank you for your service. Like, I am sweaty from biking over here, and I don't need this kind of attention, right? So thankfully, this woman, a blonde woman wearing a white pencil skirt, comes up to the front. She's from State Farm. She starts to give us tips on how to make the most of your insurance money. I'm taking notes. And then I realize this is only applicable if you're a homeowner with good insurance. So not me or any of my friends, in this housing market. So at the end of the session, I ask her, I say, well, what can I do as a renter? This woman pauses. She looks a little bit caught off guard, but she quickly composes herself and says, well, first, you definitely need to buy renter's insurance. I say, okay, great. Could you give me a quote? She says, oh, with the fires and now with California's price caps, it doesn't really make financial sense for us to take on any new clients. So no, State Farm won't do that. But she wants to be helpful, I can tell, because she says, I know this man, and he has like a few policies that he can contract out, and I could put you in touch with him. So suddenly this State Farm representative is making it sound like some kind of shady back alley deal of, I know a guy, to buy insurance. I'm biking home, and I'm disappointed, but also just kind of laughing to myself, like, does insurance really not have any options for renters? And now I'm curious. So I go home, open up my data set on flood insurance, and I wonder how many of these are renters. I looked just at San Mateo County, the most flood-impacted county in the state of California in terms of property prices. And I find out of 120,000 rental units, the number of renters with flood insurance is just 24. So renters just don't have flood insurance. Okay, cool. I guess that's where the government steps in, right? That there's a safety net to make up the difference. A couple weeks later, my new friend Cade invites me to a community meeting in East Palo Alto. I jump back on my bike. It's a Wednesday evening, heading over this highway bridge and navigating roads with no bike lanes to arrive at the YMCA. I arrive and I am amazed at how many people have shown up for this. I mean, there are kids, older folks, full families. Cade and the other organizers are literally dragging chairs from other rooms just to accommodate everyone. I grab a burrito, sit down, the projector flashes on, and the organizers start with a question. Have you ever experienced a natural disaster? How did it affect you? An elderly woman with a slight frame is sitting across from me, and she begins to speak to us in Spanish. One of the organizers, sentence by sentence, translates for us. This woman says that she was really caught off guard by the amount of rain last winter. That she had heard that the fire department was giving out sandbags, but I mean, she is not strong enough to fill it or carry it home. And so, as the rain intensified, it flooded her garage, flooded her car, and she's still dealing with the mold. She applied to FEMA for assistance, but now it's been 6 months, and she hasn't heard anything back. At this point, a lot of people in the room are nodding in agreement. I can tell this is not one person's experience, this is a common occurrence. So as I grab my bike lights, head back home, I cannot get over how different these two community meetings were. Only 3 miles apart. Up the hill, a bunch of homeowners with good insurance who honestly probably could weather a storm without it. Down the road, a bunch of renters who we now know have no insurance, who are really at the front lines of these climate impacts, and now they're being ghosted by FEMA. So, at this point, I'm thinking, I guess I just assumed as an Australian that the government would be there, but wow, we live in the Wild West, right? Like, it is up to the individual. Everyone needs their own safety net, and we urgently need to get everyone insurance. It's now August of 2023, and my colleague at OneShoreline, McKenna, invites me to join her on a site visit. We drive out to a neighborhood by the San Francisco airport, and this neighborhood has flooded every winter for the past 4 or 5 years. On my left is an elevated highway bridge. On my right is Highway 101. In front of me is a PG&E substation. And then I just hear this thundering sound of a plane above me. We're here to meet a resident named Raul. He emailed the agency last week and it was titled Inquiry from a Concerned Resident. As we walk up to his house, the first thing I see is that there are about 30 sandbags beautifully laid outside of his garage. But there is no rain on the forecast. I mean, the sky is blue. So this is a permanent barricade that he's built for himself. Raul comes out to greet us, and we walk over to the back of his house. There's another wheelbarrow with 20 sandbags ready to go. I know Raul is a homeowner, so I ask him, "Do you have flood insurance?" He says, "Yeah, my bank requires it because of my mortgage." Honestly, I'm relieved at this point. And I ask him, "Has it helped?" He says, "In 2021, when I had horrific flooding, I made a claim, but it didn't cover everything." And then what he saw was that his insurance premium went up. And year on year, the cost is going up. So now, on top of paying for his mortgage, every month he's also paying for a flood insurance bill. So now when it rains and it floods, he doesn't even want to make a claim. And so maybe I take it all back that flood insurance isn't always the best way to go. But I have learned for myself that I never would have known any of this if I had just stuck to my data set. And so my second year at Stanford looks markedly different. I've now decided I want to be a community-engaged researcher. So McKenna and I head back to San Bruno, and now we're collecting information from residents like Raul, getting them to document their experiences with flooding so that I can combine that with my data and actually have insights that are helpful, directly helpful to a community. I also go to my fire department and do training with them so that next time there's a flood, I can be the one to fill the sandbag for someone who can't. It is that beautiful time of year again when Stanford is in full bloom. But this year, the way that I'm spending my time feels right. Thank you.